A very good evening and welcome to the State of Scottish Football. It's Wednesday evening and I'm not alone this evening. I am joined by two debutants of the show. So you're not just getting myself. It's the first time I'm on this week. I'm a very busy man right now. But thankfully I'm not alone. To my left is Greg Playfair. Greg, say hi.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay. And to the bottom, a steel woman instead of a steel man, Jenna Thompson.
Hi all.
Fantastic. So first and foremost, we are going to preview Celtic Leverkusen against Celtic. Greg, this is a big game for Celtic this tomorrow because as much as Leverkusen will come into this game as favourites, it's also a game where you can see if Celtic have stepped up a level considering the poor performance that we see back in September.
Yeah, I think for Celtic coming into this game off good form as well in terms of making the League Cup final. Again, they're still in contention to qualify for the next round as well. They're currently in third position with 6 points. Leverkusen as well, though, have been going good guns in Bundesliga. Fourth in the table at this moment in time as well. So they're a team high in confidence, but I think Postecoglou's got Celtic playing quite well. I think now the players are really buying into his methods, really buying into his tactics as well. I think Celtic can go there with optimism. I think had you asked us maybe 4 weeks ago or so, I'd probably say it's going to be another convincing win for Leverkusen. But I think in terms you've seen with the front three at the moment with Abada, Jota and of course Furuhashi, I think they're a formidable three, and their movement as well I think will cause Leverkusen problems.
Jenna, I think this is a good barometer for Celtic tomorrow night in Leverkusen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Celtic are going into the game in quite good form as well. As Greg was obviously saying, about 4 weeks ago, you'd maybe question their ability to get a good result, but I can see them actually putting up a really good, strong fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Greg, on tomorrow's game, I mean, Celtic have been doing well. Momentum's a big thing in football. That momentum's going to be a big thing in Germany tomorrow evening.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be a big game for Celtic. I think the mentality now, I think, will be within the squad as well, that they've got 4 games in 11 days. They need to keep it going. I think we've seen last season with Celtic, one defeat, a one poor performance just transcended and it just became form, and I think obviously going into this tomorrow night's game, I think they will be set up with a game plan to attack. I think Postecoglou said that a few times as well. He doesn't go and try and stifle teams or try and worry about them too much. Again, probably what we've seen in the first leg at Celtic, in the first game at Celtic Park. But I think they've got within them. I think obviously the squad's looking well at the moment as well, with obviously key players back as well.
Jenna, you're an up-and-coming journalist like myself, and Ange Postecoglou was asked in a press conference today about the ticket allocation. Being honest, as I know all you viewers like being honest, I don't think it was the right question to go and ask Postecoglou today, if I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the ticket allocation question was the right way to go about it. What did you think of the whole thing, Jenna?
I mean, as he came out and said, he doesn't kind of make the rules with that. That's up to handle the SFA. But I can understand where Hibs supporters and Jack Ross is coming from with it. But I think the correct way it should have been handled as a whole would be if they gave 50-50 allocation to both sides. If one side couldn't sell out their allocation, then award it to the other side if they'd already sold theirs out. I think that's the most fair way to do it. I think if it was approached that way, I doubt Hibs would complain too much about it, because I think they are kind of within their right to kind of say, hold on, this isn't exactly fully fair. But you could play devil's advocate and say, well, they didn't sell out their allocation for the semi-final, so are they worthy of it? But at the end of the day, it's not Ange Postecoglou's fault at all. So I don't think he should have been asked the question per se, but I suppose it's always interesting to see what the opposition side's kind of thoughts are on the matter, if you're taking it from a Hibs perspective.
Greg, the Daily Record ran an article today saying the grueling Celtic run Ange Postecoglou doesn't fear as by Liverpool Rangers showdowns bookend Mother Madness, but this is the privilege and the the reality of being part of a big club. You're going to have big games, and December is a big month for any club that is ambitious of challenging for titles and cups.
Yeah, I think Postecoglou has been in the club long enough now. He's obviously still got the coaching staff at Parkhead that obviously he's inherited as well, and they all have made sure that he understands fully that this is the sort of business end, really, the first part of the business end of the season in terms of getting that momentum, getting yourself through to Christmas, and again, obviously for him and with everything's at stake within the Premiership this season in terms of almost guaranteed qualification for the group stage of the Champions League, he'll be wanting to go in and put in a marker. And again, Ken touched on it. I know the guys on Monday's podcast were saying the same. There's momentum going to be building for Celtic going into that cup final as well. And as I said, they've had a good record, and being a Hearts fan in recent years, I've witnessed it firsthand. They do well in finals. So I think the players are used to it now as well. I think they're all professional enough. They've all been there long enough as well. So I think the modern football, I know what I'm saying, like it's 4 games, 11 days, but they're well looked after, and I think there'll be a few freshens up of teams in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, I would expect Celtic to contend this. Hopefully, maybe the game next Thursday against Hearts, they don't do so well, but I do expect Celtic to do quite well.
A lot of comments coming in. Thanks very much, guys. Much appreciated. You won't see the Twitter comments, but I can tell you that Colin Byers has said UB's everywhere, and I must say that Greg and Jenna have got off to the best of starts. But on tomorrow, Jenna, I mean, Jota and Kyogo have done very well in the attacking front for Celtic, but also defensively, if they can get it right, there's no reason why Celtic can't go to Leverkusen and get a result tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I fully agree. I mean, Celtic's front three are a force to be reckoned with. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. Their signings over the summer may just be some of the best signings in the full league. I'd happily argue that case, and I'm not even a Celtic fan myself. But I mean, as you were saying, these players, they have more than proved themselves to handle their own, both in European stages and in the home leagues, obviously in Scotland. So I think Celtic have every right to have faith behind the boys. I can see them doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Greg, when we look at this assignment, I think it would be a turn of the tide, so to speak, because back in July, would you have been looking at Celtic and saying last 22 Europa League, not a chance. Look at it tomorrow. If Celtic can go and win this, what a difference 4 months makes for Celtic Football Club. Yeah,
and again, obviously, I know Celtic did get criticised for the handling of the manager situation as well, which we could spend the next hour talking about that alone. But to his credit, I think Postecoglou's came in there with a single-mindedness that he is the best man for the job, with his beliefs in terms of how he wants his team to play and be set up. And as we're saying, 1-1 bleeds into 2, bleeds into 3, and as I said, again, as a Hearts supporter going there next week, it's one of those where you're actually now having that bit of fear a little bit going back to Celtic Park. And I think, again, that's just in terms of what he's established and what he's built. And we've seen with so many players that have kind of been transformed. And there's, Tony Goldstein, again, one example of many that have become such a better player under Postecoglou. So, yeah, I think if he goes with a strong lineup again tomorrow, which, again, I imagine he will, it could be a famous night for all Celtic fans that watch him.
I think belief's a big thing in the Celtic camp right now, Jenna. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, they boys have every right to have the belief in themselves. I mean, as I was saying earlier, they're coming into this game in quite good form. Obviously, they're great in the semi-finals. I generally think that Celtic have turned themselves around in such an amazing way. Because I knew myself, I had them for second or at least third finish at the start of the season before things kicked off and we probably got to see Ange Postecoglou's management style. But see now, I'm eating my words and I'm happy to admit that. I think a lot of people happily make me rethink those earlier comments from the start of the season. But yeah, I mean, they've kind of, as I was saying earlier, they know themselves that they're good players and that they're a good squad. So I don't see how anyone can fault them for having a bit of belief and hope about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Now, I hope Tom Mess is listening in tonight. I'll tell you why I hope the big man's listening in, because he likes me and he likes the fact that I'm honest, and I hate being self-conscious here before I continue. But I must say, this is a very valid point by Owen McCandles. What does allocation have to do with Ange? Hibs can't sell 70.5k season tickets. I must apologise for the language, but it's okay. Owen, you didn't exactly disclose the full extent of that swearing there, so we'll let you off. But irrespective, Greg, I look at this by saying that if Ange is getting asked about ticket allocations in the press conference prior to Bayer Leverkusen away, doesn't make great reader for me, because he's got a big game tomorrow. And the cup final was a good win. The cup semi-final was a good win for Celtic against St Johnstone Sunday. But attention turns to Leverkusen immediately after that final whistle.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of obviously being asked the question, I think unfortunately kind of bad news sells, bad news kind of goes. So again, they're kind of almost wanting a bit of a soundbite from Postecoglou. And I think as well, because he's kind of not from the, these isles as well, from, he's not brought up a Celtic fan in Glasgow, whatever, so he's kind of come from that Australian mentality, and I think people kind of want to get his take on it as well. But it's kind of not the thing you should be getting asked going into the game as well, because again, he kind of wants to ask maybe how the team's going to line up. But I think if we are going to get questions like that, I think it's always going to be kind of part and parcel of it, but it's kind of something you don't like seeing.
Absolutely. By the way, I'm not trying to hide Jenna's face purposely here. I'm just saying hi to Michael McEwen. Well done, big man, because you did really well on the show last night. So well done again, Michael. Back on to tomorrow night. Back on to tomorrow night, and if Celtic can go and get the job done, I think it's a statement first and foremost, but also I look at this by saying I think Celtic can get so much confidence out of getting this result. But Jenna, is it defensively? Do you feel that Celtic need to tidy up? But also, where can this game be won? Do you feel? And when I say won, I mean either analytically or indeed externally, just in terms of how you think the game will unfold.
I think it's kind of hard to speculate, as we were saying. I mean, Celtic performances do kind of vary defensively, because one day their defenders can have a really strong game, and then the next they kind of can be picked apart by quite often sides you wouldn't expect. I mean, when you see them play Livingston seems to know the winning code, if you kind of get me. So, I mean, if they've did their homework, I don't doubt for a minute they'll try amplify on Celtic's weaker areas in their defence. But as long as they've been properly training, obviously I expect they will have, as long as they go in with the right mindset, with the right training behind them, and hopefully, obviously by Lucen, I'm awful with my pronunciation, sorry if I butchered that one, but if they go in, it will be kind of hard. As I was saying, like, their front three is kind of their main superstars for the Celtic side, but obviously they can't rely on them forever, so I don't know, it's hard to speculate.
Yeah. Kevin Graham, I hope you're well, my good man, but he says, love the Palace enthusiasm, but truthfully, we can get a hiding tomorrow night. But and by the way, Kevin, as you well and truly know, there's no Celtic fans in this panel tonight.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show you how confident we are Celtic potentially getting a result here. But Greg, I mean, it would be a fantastic result for the coefficient if Celtic can go and pull off this result tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely, and I think we've kind of seen a reliance on Rangers in recent seasons as well, doing so well, and obviously Celtic have done their fair bit in a couple of seasons past as well. So again, for Scottish football, we want to see kind of more European nights, more prestige tournaments as well, in terms of teams in the Europa League like Celtic and Rangers making it to the group stage. I think for the others, it's fair to say. I think for Celtic and Rangers or Hearts or whoever does well can get in the Champions League. And as I said, you kind of want those glamour ties back. You want to see the better players playing in Scotland in competition. Obviously, we're seeing it now with the national team as well. But I think it's within Celtic's gift to put a marker down. But I think for me, in terms of how it's going to be won and lost, I think you need to sort of keep it tight defensively as well. I think if they concede first half, that's where, as I said, the defence has kind of been a bit Jekyll and Hyde so far. That's probably the Achilles heel, as Jenna's mentioned. But I think obviously the front three as well, if they can get supply to them, then again, I think obviously the chances will fall their way.
Absolutely. And pardon me, by the way, because I actually bucked in on television, but I don't think anybody's had, so I think that's absolutely fine. Postecoglou confirmed that Tom Rogic and Carl Starfelt, Jenna, will miss out again through injury. And he wants to go toe-to-toe with Leverkusen. Do you think that's the right approach?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, when you're playing in Europe, you need to really put an attacking forefront. And as we were saying, like, when Celtic does well in Europe, it kind of does well for all Scottish football because it helps the coefficient and whatnot. So I feel as if they can't help but play attackingly, because we've seen it in the national team as well. If you want to go bring back the whole international football point, if you don't play proper attacking football against these international sides, you're going to fall apart quite quickly, as we've seen plenty of times in Euros and in the Europa League, etc. before. So they kind of have to.
And I think this is a marker, or Jen, I'll stay with yourself. I think this is a marker to see where Celtic are at just now, but also where Celtic could be moving forward, because Celtic ultimately want to be Champions League, or indeed Europa League. Well, predominantly Champions League, but if last resort has to be Europa League, then Europa League will settle for that. But well, my point is, Celtic want to be elite tournament football every year on the European stage.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, as you were saying, if push came to shove and they had to go back down to the Europa League for whatever reason, they finished second again, or they're in the Champions League or whatever, then obviously they would never turn their noses up at that either. And it is all about pushing the narrative that Scottish football does have talent in it. It has really good players, it's got good managers, and we can provide results as well.
Mm-hmm. Greg, Postecoglou saying his comments today that we can go and be conservative, try and hold on, try and survive, but if we do that, we'll learn nothing. And I think that's a good assessment heading into tomorrow's game.
Yeah, I think he's right. As I said, he's kind of said on numerous occasions now that he doesn't like watching defensive football. That doesn't entertain him as a supporter, which is, again, probably why he's kind of went down so well so far with the Celtic fans. Again, I think he's probably got beaten there. If Beaton plays again from obviously Sunday, he can be the sort of defensive linchpin. Again, you've also got Callum McGregor there that can sort of play deep line as well. But I think even Turnbull likes getting forward. Again, McGregor can make the penetrative passes going forward as well. So again, and obviously you've seen the fullbacks coming forward as well. So again, if it's Ralston and Juranovic, again, I'm sure they'll come up and obviously attack. But again, I think obviously they've got to be wary of the attacking threats that Leverkusen pose.
Owen comes up with another really good point here, saying look at Dundee United and Celtic, but I'll stick with yourself, Greg. Look at Dundee United and Celtic Park, that the European past well got a point. Then look at Livingston and John Snow for nothing. We need teams to play football. And I don't think that's disrespectful to the Scottish Premiership either. I think there's some teams that can go and play one of the Glasgow 2 and just park the bus, basically.
Yeah, that's fine. Obviously, Livingston, but fortuitous perhaps in getting their point at Celtic Park a few weeks ago. But I think in terms of pressing, it can go one of two ways. You can, again, do the Livingston approach in terms of be defensive and, you can get a point of it. Again, the whole penalty miss, which was discussed on here, of course. Or you can kind of go and open yourself up. And we've seen teams, again, even teams like Hearts and Hibs go to Celtic Park or Ibrox, and they've had 3 or 4 not pass them without a reply. So you can understand it, but I think you're always going to get more sort of credit in the bank and in favour from your fans if you go and attack. I think that's kind of what fans say. Well, if you try and attack and you try and win the match, then fair enough, you have had a plan in place. But again, it's probably, I go back to thinking, is this game that important in terms of the 3 tournaments? Obviously the Scottish Cup still to come, but 3 tournaments Celtic are still in. They've got obviously Europa League, they've got the Premiership and the League Cup. It's probably ranking, I don't know, Celtic fans can maybe comment and say, is this probably third on their list? Because I think obviously Postecoglou will want to get his first silverware with League Cup, set a marker down for the rest of the season. You've obviously got the league title, win that back obviously after last season. So I think Europa League, it is that sort of 3-hit for me. So I don't think he would set up to defend, but he might as well go and attack.
Yeah, Gerard, I think Greg's touched on a good point there. I mean, the 19th of December will be a massive day for Ange Postecoglou and indeed Celtic Football Club, but the priority, first and foremost, is tomorrow night.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, any cup final is huge for a team, and as Greg was saying, Ange Postecoglou will want to get his first piece of silverware, especially since with the Glasgow teams there's always that rivalry. Celtic fans have said for years, look what we've achieved and look what Gerrard achieved, 1 trophy in 3 years, we got this many in this many years. So I think it'll kind of help with that, like, argument with the Celtic fans, because let's be honest, we all kind of love the banters like football fans between rival sides. Fair enough, if we're not Old Firm fans, so we don't get it as much, but if we're talking from a fan point here, it'll help with that as well. But as well as that, from an actual football clubbing side, it is definitely huge, because if he can get his first silverware not even 12 months into the job, that will set the standard, will hopefully set the standard anyway, for what he hopes to achieve as a manager, what he can actually achieve, and just bring back some glory back to Celtic Park, because obviously they never got the treble last season. They were not from first place for the first time in about 9 years. They will want to be able to prove themselves again that, no, we are the champions, like, we can do this, and we intend to do it. So he's just hoping that he's able to do it and implement some, like, proper hope and pride amongst the fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, I mean, I hate to sound brutal here, but if Postecoglou can indeed get that trophy back to Celtic, the League Cup on the 19th of December, you look at that and say, Postecoglou's done 7 in 4 months that Gerrard did in 3 years or 2 years.
Yeah, I think obviously the kind of situations are a bit different. I think that obviously a Rangers team that Gerrard had obviously came into, I mean, there was a lot of sort of misfits. It's probably fair to say. I think a lot of Rangers supporters would agree. Was kind of had to turn it over. Again, obviously Postecoglou's came in and he's got guys that are there, such as Callum McGregor. Again, I know he's been injured, but James Forrest, guys that have kind of been involved in the success. Obviously, initially under Lennon, and then obviously Brendan Rodgers. So, the mentality is there within that squad, but nonetheless, the job he's done in such a short space of time, as I said, given the fact the role was looking like it was Eddie Howe's and Celtic were led down a sort of merry path before, Eddie Howe changed tack there. So for him to come in, again, credit to him with his own beliefs, inheriting the whole coaching staff that he's got there, got them to buy into his beliefs and systems, and again, it is a remarkable job he's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for everybody sending their comments. Much appreciated. Now, we are going to speak about Rangers very shortly, but just so we don't bore all the Rangers chat immediately, we're going to go on to a man you know very well, Greg, David Templeton.
David Templeton
announces retirement from international football.
David Templeton, I think he's retired.
Yep.
Yes, you said he's retired from international football. You mean, right, okay. Yeah. I mean, I think David wishes he was only retiring from international football, but yeah, I know. Again, he'll always hold a sort of special place within the sort of hearts of Hearts supporters like myself. Again, he's probably involved in probably one of the greatest moments in terms of talking about European football for Hearts away down to Liverpool. For that moment, we were 1-0 up against Liverpool at Anfield, although very kind of Pepe Reina to throw the ball in for David Templeton, but nonetheless, it's probably the best scenes I've ever seen in terms of away end, and again, Templeton was involved in that. Again, he's obviously featured in games for Hearts, including big moments in Edinburgh derbies, scoring at Easter Road as well. Again, he was a good foil for Hearts, and obviously as well, I think towards the end of his time, I know he kind of left in a bit acrimony to Rangers, but I think it was more of a case of it was kind of asked to leave and to obviously bring funds. At the time, Hearts were struggling financially, and even since he left, I think he's been great to the Hearts cause. Again, he's donated jerseys, donated boots to the Hearts when we were fundraising as well. So it's sad to obviously think he's kind of had to retire, because again, he's probably could have played on, but I think his injuries have sadly caught up with him.
Greg, I'll lead you on to the next question by Kevin here.
With the panel say Templeton Macy's career, so I think it's an obvious thing to say that obviously when he's scoring on a Thursday night at Anfield in the UEFA Cup Europa League at the time, and then to sign for the then third division Rangers, which again playing against part-time players, you can kind of see that he did. I think in terms of other options at that point, I don't know what he had. I think Hearts kind of pushed him into moving there. Again, financially, it's kind of set him up for life, to be fair. I think a 3-year deal at the time. So I think on the back of that, that's when he started getting injuries. Again, maybe playing on plastic pitches and playing against part-time players, maybe out to kind of kick you. Maybe it didn't help him there as well. But I think having watched David Templeton kind of come through the rat, well, initially at Stenhousemuir and then come to Hearts and our sort of development squads, he's someone that I thought would have went on to have a more successful career. But I think that can just be your luck, isn't it, in terms of injuries? I think he went tried his luck down again in England, but again, I think it's like once if you're a speedy player, you start getting these hamstrings, and done his ACL as well. So you're not the same player afterwards. So he's had to change his game. I think at Hamilton he kind of played centrally, but for me, he could have went on to have a more distinguished career. Maybe if he had international honours, but I just don't think it's kind of worked out for him.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Jenna, do you have any dad in that?
Just that apparently there's talks that he could be staying at Hamilton as some sort of coach. I don't know if he'd be involved with the first team, like maybe with like the younger size, like under 19s or something like that. But if that's the case, then it won't be as painful for him to hang up the boots if he's still got a foot in football somehow. So I just kind of wish him the best for his career overall and life going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now we're very briefly going to go into the Rangers game. I'll let the Thursday panel discuss the Rangers game in more detail. I just want this to be the point crew tonight. So a big game this for Rangers, and the first game for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst tomorrow. So going to be a big night at Ibrox tomorrow, Jenna.
Oh yeah, definitely, especially against Sparta Prague. There is kind of a bit of a hatred between the two sides, as we've seen recently, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was in the back of certain Rangers players' heads. I hope it's not, because we all know that hatred's kind of been allegedly, watch what I'm saying here, don't want sued by anyone, but like allegedly being brought on by. So hopefully that doesn't come in at the headlines again, because if it does, then UEFA does need to have a serious look in, because we can't talk about Sparta and Rangers without kind of acknowledging that aspect of it, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, when I look at this game tomorrow, I think Van Bronckhorst needs to go and get some sort of result early doors in his Rangers tenure, just to kind of make a statement. Yes,
I think it's fair to say. I know, obviously, in the back of the weekend results in the semi-final, I know there's been comments made by, like, say, Conor Goldstein in his post-match interview and stuff. So I know there'll be Rangers fans expect him going into tomorrow's game in terms of a result. I mean, I think there's been videos that were released yesterday, I think, of the first training session for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst and his coaching staff, and I think there's one with Roy Mackay telling off Ryan Kent tricks for the circus or something, I think his comment is. So I think you can kind of see it's almost like, I don't know whether this has been since Gerrard's left, but it's kind of been a bit more kind of relaxed at Rangers, a bit more jovial, and whether that's because Gerrard was quite strict and regimented, but I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst will be quite purposeful, will be quite regimented, and we might see that in his tactical approach tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with you here, Greg. Do you think Ryan Kent will have a different side to his game under Mackay, because Mackay was a very similar player when he played when he was younger?
Yeah, I mean, if you played football or Championship manager when younger, Roy Mackay was a must-sign player, prolific striker, obviously back in Spain and latterly at FC, obviously Bayern Munich. But I think Ryan Kent's role under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst will be quite interesting. Roy Mackay's played alongside Ian Robin, both for internationally and at Bayern as well. So he kind of knows a sort of out-and-out winger when he sees one. So, I mean, they would do well to learn off Roy Mackay as well. But I think Ryan Kent, there's obviously sort of been rumblings, I know, for a while, or a couple of windows where interest from down south. So, I mean, whether that's something Steven Gerrard comes back in from in January or the summer, or another club down south. But again, I think the Dutch approach in terms of, you look at a lot of Dutch managers, even when they come to Scotland, or, kind of looking at Ajax as a blueprint, for example, or again, you can look at Gio's time at Feyenoord. The teams play 4-3-3, they're really purposeful, there is attacking intent, but everything is done with, as I said, intent as well. So, I think the sort of days of showboating or whatever Kent was getting told off in training for yesterday, I don't think that will land quite well for him going forward. So I think he might need to adapt a couple of things in his game, but hopefully it would be to his benefit.
And that's the thing, Jenna. I mean, I'm going to compare Beale to Mackay here. Mackay was a forward-thinking player. Beale wasn't really a player as such, but what you got from Beale was an all-round top coach. But regarding this Mackay and Kent partnership, or coach-player relationship, I think it's going to be a huge positive, because it will allow Kent not to do the silly things that he maybe did under Gerrard.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Ryan Kent was a player, you either loved him or you loathed him, depending on what side of the divide you're on, if you're part of the Rangers support or whoever they were playing that weekend. So yeah, I mean, Ryan Kent is a good player, but he did kind of lack that discipline quite a lot in the park. He would make kind of risky moves, risky tackles and that, and obviously he did get punished for it when appropriate. So hopefully under like Mackay, he'll be able to get him more strict, like, no, this is how we want you to play, this is how you will play, and this is how you'll help us get results.
Absolutely. Greg, I think Van Bronckhorst, as I touched upon, needs a big win, but I look at tomorrow night by saying tough game first and foremost, but a win in front of a full house at Ibrox would be the perfect start.
Yeah, it absolutely would be. And as I said, I think tomorrow the supporters will get behind Van Bronckhorst, given it as his first game. Again, we talked about Celtic there earlier, and that winning builds you that momentum. Again, obviously they've got a league game, obviously away to Livingston, following that, and then away to Easter Road. So, I mean, if he doesn't get off to a good start, then that makes those two league games all that more difficult as well. And as I said, you've seen in the past that these are not necessarily foregone conclusions or happy hunting grounds in terms of, guaranteed points or anything like that. There'll be two tough places to go. So I think, again, like we're talking about earlier with Celtic, I think you'll want to set up for attacking football, and you'll want to set up to win.
Absolutely. This is a question for the panel. One for the panel, Jota, Kent. Now, I'll start proceedings here by saying that I prefer Jota. He's got much more of an attacking flair than Ryan Kent has, and he's one of those players that will cut in and give you an instinct straight away, which you very much need. Also, what you get with Ryan Kent is Ryan Kent's he is a more efficient player when it comes to driving into the box and making things tick, but his nose is pacey. So Jota for me, but what are you thinking, Jenna?
I'm not going to lie, this one is going to be solely based on what player I've seen more of recently. I haven't seen much of Jota's play style, which is on me. So for that reason, I feel as if it's only fair to go for Ryan Kent, because I don't want to comment about Jota too in-depthly in case I get it wrong. I'll just hold my hands up to that one. But yeah, I mean, as we were saying earlier, like Ryan Kent, he does get results for Rangers. Fair enough, he was played with injury for a wee while there, which had him out, but he seems to be in quite relatively good form since he came back in. So I'm going to have to go with Ryan Kent now.
Yeah, Greg?
Sounds like I've got the casting vote. Again, there's a bigger sample size for Ryan Kent in terms of Scottish football and what we've seen, and he has delivered some clutch moments in terms of game-changing assists or goals, but that's one of the things he doesn't get a lot of his goals. And again, for Jota coming in as well, he's kind of on fire at this moment in time. And in terms of, if you ask me who would I take in my team for that sort of winger position, out position, on current form, I would say Jota. But as I said, it's Ryan Kent could become revitalised again under Van Bronckhorst.
Right, the big question, and we'll start with yourself, Greg. the big question about Connor Goldstein's media comments. Alan McGregor very much wasn't interested in it.
Yeah, of course isn't. I mean, it's one of those where you just. I was kind of listening to it back, and it's almost like, is this a wind up? You hear these things, or we've been dubbed or something, but to have came out with that, and I know obviously there's been ex Rangers players going to come in the media in the last few days saying it wouldn't have happened under their time or whatever else, but it is kind of staggering to think it's 3-0 down. Or 3-1 even at the time, the Rangers players are kind of thrown in the towel, especially with 45 minutes to go, and a sort of national semi-final, kind of almost just sort of being willing to succumb to defeat. Again, I know obviously last season there was an argument that Rangers done so well because there wasn't supporters there in the stadium. So, I mean, that's an interesting one in itself. But, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying tomorrow. You could see sort of reaction that Goldstein may get from supporters. I know people are talking about Tavernier not facing the media as well. Calls for him to be dropped for Nathan Patterson. So, I mean, it is fascinating to see what Van Bronckhorst and his team will kind of make of the sort of current attitude and beliefs within the squad.
Thanks, Greg. Much appreciated, because I can get back onto the right back thread here by saying I think Anthony Austin's the best right back in Scottish football at this precise minute in time, just because of his adversity and his ability to drive forward, also his ability to make opportunities count, such as what he did at Dens Park very recently. I mean, Patterson needs an opportunity in that Rangers team, and Tavernier hasn't hit the heights that he did a season or two ago. I'm going to be brutal with that. And I don't know if that's because of Rangers kind of losing their bubble a little bit, or what any other circumstance behind that. But Jenna, I also look at this by saying that the Sparta Prague indeed are tough opponents. But if Rangers don't win this tomorrow, what does this mean? Because the priority will be tomorrow night, but they've got a tough few days coming up. Tomorrow and then Sunday away to Livingston, which is never easy.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it will say quite a lot in a negative light if things don't go to plan, but I think it depends on how they don't go to plan. See, if the team go out there, they give it their all, and they're just unlucky, I don't think fans would complain too much about the result. I could be wrong, so Rangers fans happily chime in with that one for me. But if they go out there and they kind of half-arsed it, to put it bluntly, and just don't really care. I mean, Connor Goldstein's comments, we're not hungry anymore for trophies, things like that shouldn't fly. And if the players have that belief, I think quite frankly they could have kept that to themselves instead of making it public, because that is like the number one way to turn the fans against you and not wanting to support you. So if they come out there like that, then they're kind of just asking for a defeat. I think they must have kind of had that mindset. If they had that going into the Hibs game, then they can't really make much of the fact they lost as the team. The fans have every right to be annoyed by that, obviously. But yeah, I mean, as you were saying as well, Nathan Patterson is a really good right back, and he needs more first team experience. Yeah, he's getting quite a bit of the national team now, but he'll only get the national team if he proves himself continuously in this Rangers squad. And well, if Tavernier, Goldstein, and there's talks of McGregor as well, just not being interested anymore, I say get the boys in. Maybe not for the European one straight away, maybe sub them on like 60 minutes in or whatnot. But definitely for Livingston at home, get the players in that actually want to play. Because that's exactly kind of how Motherwell went downhill last season. And as a fan of Motherwell myself, I've seen exactly how that can leave a team. I mean, before Graham Alexander came in, we were lucky if we won a handful of games before the Christmas split. And if that was to happen to Rangers, I think there would be a massive upheaval.
Absolutely, and we're gonna get on to Motherwell in the end of the show, by the way. So we're gonna get the little bit of cheesecake just to finish off proceedings tonight, Jenna. So you'll enjoy that. But I must say as well, this game's at the Tony Macaroni Arena on Sunday, which makes things even worse for the Rangers' point of view, because both the Glasgow two have struggled there over recent years in particular. But finally, let's get our score predictions from indeed both Celtic against Leverkusen and Rangers against Prague. Jenna, we'll start with yourself.
I always call this my safe bet. I'm going to say 2-1 to Celtic. And that's the Rangers one I'm most nervous about putting my head in the line for. I'm going to say one each, and maybe at a push, 2-1 to Sparta Prague at a push. But I'm going to call it kind of as the neutral and be like one each for that one.
Okay, Greg.
Yeah, again, I think it will kind of depend on the first 15-20 minutes of the Celtic game, but I think it'll be goals. I think it'll be perhaps 2-2 tomorrow night, and then the Rangers Sparta Prague game. I think we might just see another 1-1 draw. I feel I'm sitting on the fence on both games here, but it's kind of almost a bit of an unknown in both games, to be honest. Celtic could obviously go with a free hit, and then for Rangers as well, you kind of don't know the setup's going to be under Van Bronckhorst as well. But potentially, if I was going to lean, I would say maybe Rangers with a potential 1-0.
And I've just remembered that the Bayer Leverkusen v Celtic game tomorrow is at 5:45. So just to let you know, the state of Scottish football will most certainly not be on at 6 p.m. tomorrow night, because it'll be interrupting the fine contributors from the Celtic State of Mind. So stay tuned for the lads and the lasses from the Celtic State of Mind, because they'll do a grand job tomorrow, casting their eye over the game in question in Leverkusen. But next up, Craig Gordon, the man, the myth, the Craig Gordon, Greg. You start us off.
I mean, like he's a bit like Benjamin Button. He's just getting younger and better with age, and I mean, even now looking at him, I kind of question myself, thinking, is he actually going to turn 39 in Hogmanay? He's almost rolling back the years. Again, for him, obviously achieving 64 caps for Scotland, despite the fact he had that horrific injury spell at Sunderland, and then obviously, was coaching part-time at Dumbarton at one point, kind of resigning himself to not playing again, and now obviously becoming the most sort of cap player at Hearts, overtaking a certain Stephen Presley, which is went down well with a lot of fans down Gorgie Way. So 32 caps, also at Hearts as well is phenomenal, and again the most in our history as well. So it's also strange kind of seeing a guy who started off kind of once I was like a teenager myself. So 17 years between his first cap and his latest. I mean, it's who would bet against him going on well past in fact, I think he will go on to his 40th year next year and get another extension.
Absolutely. Now, if you're wondering why we're mentioning Craig Gordon, I'll tell you why. Cut star Craig Gordon says he's immensely proud of breaking a club record and has achieved a goal he set when he returned to the club. The goalkeeper played a crucial role as Scotland meet Moldova and Denmark to ensure a place as seeds in the World Cup playoff and the draws on Friday, But as well as playing a role in the team's success, Gordon also achieved a personal landmark, because his cap against Denmark was his 32nd, surpassing the record set by Stephen Presley. The legend is Elvis, Greg.
Yeah, not necessarily down at Tynecastle for some fans, but again we could talk about that for at length. But I mean, it is just phenomenal in terms of obviously career he's had, given what he's went through. Obviously breaking into the team as a teenager at Hearts, and obviously moving on to Sunderland, a record fee, 9 million, a British record for a goalkeeper at that time. And as I said, it's I think he's got, my figures are right, something over 210 appearances for Hearts, 72 plus clean sheets as well. So even that record, again, I'll caveat some of these clean sheets and appearances have been in the Scottish Championship, but it's still a phenomenal record for Hearts. And as I said, probably one of the best goalkeepers, if not the best goalkeeper I've seen at Hearts growing up.
Kevin, he is very much out of contract in the summer. There hasn't been a new contract signed, has there, Greg?
They've talked about it again. To be honest, I would expect him to sign a new deal anyway. I mean, for as long as Craig Gordon wants to stay at Hearts, even in a coaching capacity or whatever else, again, I think he's as good as assured. But I mean, I think the initial plan was for him to kind of stay on potentially next season, depending on how young Harry Stone got on the loan at Partick Thistle. Again, I think that's not went the way in which Hearts have expected. I mean, Ross Stewart, in all intents and purposes, is a bit of a placeholder on the bench for Hearts. I don't think he's ever going to dislodge Craig Gordon. So, I mean, I would expect him to sign a new deal given the fact that we will hopefully, as a national team, be in a World Cup next December, November, December time. So yeah, I'd expect Craigie to stay on.
Mm-hmm. Just to clarify, this State of Mind, not a Celtic Sports channel. Indeed, it is. They do have the Celtic State of Mind at 12:30 Monday to Friday, but also we have the State of Scottish Football at 6 p.m. from Monday to Friday, where we speak about everything Scottish football related. So there you go. I think I've given you the encyclopedia about how we work at State of Mind there. So there we go. But Jenna, Craig Gordon's also been phenomenal for Scotland, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this is what I have to laugh at when it comes to international call-ups. Every single player there is a hero. When it comes back to league duty, they are public enemy number one for whatever weekend you're playing them. So you can argue that I've got a sheet to sing his praises here after Motherwell's result against Hearts. But we don't mind that one, Greg. But yeah, I mean, Craig Gordon is a great keeper, and this might just be the girl in me, but he has aged like fine wine, so I'll always have a little bit of a soft spot for him.
Yeah,
but like, honestly, he is a great player, especially for his age. Like, to be playing football professionally in the top flight when he's almost 40, that is phenomenal, because you don't see many strikers, like defenders, being able to pull that off. So hats off to him, especially if he had some injury issues and that before.
Do you think there's a reliance on Craig Gordon to an extent, Greg?
Definitely. Hearts, without a doubt. I think you've seen when it was on international duty last season, obviously the games we had without him, with Ross Stewart and goals, we had probably one of the worst ever cup results, probably if not the worst results at Brora away. Ross Stewart didn't cover himself in glory that day. Then we played Queen of the South at Tynecastle, and again we got defeated 3-2 with now Steelman, Connor Shields scoring them against us there. And again, he was great that night with 2 goals. But yeah, as I said, I think when you look at Ross Stewart, again, he's not going to dislodge him. I think our sort of youth prospect that we kind of had high hopes for, he's had a loss of form, been dropped at Partick Thistle, and again, they're by all means doing well in the Championship, so he can't break in there. So, I mean, he's not just in terms of one of the best goalkeepers in the league, and again, obviously our national number one. He's also quite important in terms of in the dressing room, and obviously when when games come around as well. Again, Ed, I know obviously we're defeated there at obviously the weekend at Motherwell, but I mean he's still pulling off some incredible saves as well. And as I said, it kind of belies his age that he's kind of in the twilight, or should be sort of settling down to be maybe a number 2, or settling down, that he's probably looking for the next couple of years playing for Hearts, and hopefully winning some honours as well.
Go on then. Glenn Shooter on Monday said that Robbie Nelson's a man under pressure. I disagree with I disagree with Glenn. I said Robbie up there. I think I disagree with Glenn. Go on, the show's yours.
I mean, listen, I think there was a few tongue-in-cheek comments there, because I think kind of growing up as a Hearts supporter, you go to away games, you get set for the big day out, you enjoy going to Motherwell, Tannadice, Kilmarnock when they win the league, you enjoy, or obviously Ross County, you enjoy going to these grounds, and you kind of usually see this turgid football from Hearts. It's kind of happened for the last few years. Our away record at a lot of teams isn't that great. Obviously, we started off quite well with wins at St Mirren, and obviously Dundee United as well. A bit of an optimism. So I think Hearts fans were a bit disappointed, given it's been much said about the way forward we took to Motherwell. But listen, I think Nielsen as well, I think what's also got to be remembered, as I said, although we have been promoted from the Championship last season, it's Nielsen's second spell. We're not necessarily a team that's budget-wise or budgeting to stay up. We are budgeting for the sake and officially top 6, but given the sort of start we've got, I think Hearts fans would be expecting top 4, and obviously looking to have a kind draw in the Scottish Cup, and then obviously look to win that if the matches present themselves in a favourable way. But listen, Nielsen is not going to be judged on one away performance, and as I said, he has built a good squad. He's got a good backroom staff as well with Jig and Gordon Forrest, and so I mean they are playing better football. Probably 1 or 2 additions to come in January, but I mean, yeah, obviously we'll have to get back to winning ways on Saturday.
Absolutely. Right, you've had your 10 minutes of fame and Heart and the Wolverine, Greg. So off the Jenna next to speak about the lovely Motherwell. And 2 minutes in the bounce, Jenna.
Oh yeah, I mean, coming off the losing spell we had, I was actually quite fearful for the Aberdeen game. And it is quite funny because I was speaking to my boyfriend. He was asking, "Oh, I'm going to put a bet in the Motherwell game. What should I put on?" And I was like, 2-0 Aberdeen all day long. He was like, "No, I'll bet Motherwell. Who's likely to score?" And I was like, depending team sheet, Tony Watt or Kevin Van Veen. He decided not to put it on. What came up? 2-0 Motherwell, both from Kevin Van Veen, which I was absolutely scabbing about because the one time I say Motherwell aren't going to do well, they do well. And I've noticed that a lot this season. Whenever I'm thinking, you know what, the team isn't doing good, this game could go really badly in our favour. Motherwell just seems to prove me wrong and knock out the park, which I hope they continue to do, because our next run of games are quite tough. I mean, I always forget if it's Dundee or Dundee United. We've got
It's Dundee. It's at Dens,
is it Dundee? Yeah, we've got them this weekend, and then we've got a midweek game as well. So I'm just hoping we can use momentum from those two big wins, because there's no point underestimating Aberdeen overall is quite a big club compared to Motherwell. Same with Hearts, obviously. So he beat them both, one away and one at home. That is great for Motherwell. I mean, in our last 5 games, we had Rangers. We got annihilated 6-1, which I prefer not to talk about. Then there was a Celtic game, annihilated. The St Mirren game, like I can sit here for a full hour and argue about that St Mirren game, where we end up drawing to each of them when it should have stayed at 2-0. But I'll save those comments for another podcast at a later time when that's appropriate. But yeah, I mean, Graham Alexander, he's kind of a strange manager in terms of how he plays. He sticks with his 4-3-3, which is fine in theory, but with that 4-3, it doesn't change much of the players that's actually playing in it. And that's where I think the biggest errors are. If you're constantly playing players that aren't giving the results in these positions, you either swap out the position or you swap them out entirely. And I think it takes a good couple of bad runs in the bounce for Graham Alexander to make those decisions. But by then, the impact's been done. The damage is done. We've dropped points, or we've only got 1 out of 3, that type of thing. So until he can fully fine-tune that skill, I think that will be the keys to Motherwell's success this season. But we have started off quite well overall. We've done better this season so far than I thought we were going to. I had as a season, I was like, we'll be lucky if we're 8th at an absolute push. With the way we've been going, I can see us being potentially in the bottom half of top 6. I want to be realistic as Motherwell. So I can see us being between 4th, 6th, maybe even 7th at an absolute push if a complete disaster happens between now and Christmas again. But yeah, I mean, we're starting to go on the upside of things, and well, long may it continue is what I say.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I seen Greg's body language turn there when you said Dundee. Because Dundee's a bad name in Hearts colours.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let's not speak about them.
But I mean, on this weekend, it's going to be a tough game for Motherwell, but I'd look at this by saying Dundee's a complete unknown, because it's a 3-week layoff for Dundee, but also for Motherwell, momentum's a big thing, and there are loads of momentum heading this weekend's game at Dens.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, as I was saying, 2 wins in a bounce after a really bad losing spell, and to have them be comfortable wins as well is phenomenal. I mean, I watched the game back after we played Hearts last weekend, and that easily could have been 3-0, 4-0 if it wasn't for the likes of Craig Gordon. So we've kind of proven to ourselves, here's the players that can get us results. Here's the best place to play them. Graham Alexander, do it. Get the boys motivated, get them on the pitch, get them actually wanting those 3 points before we end up slipping into the old blasé ways, because Motherwell does that far too often. They'll go up quite late on in the first half, walk into half time going, oh, we've breezed this, it's no problem. We'll hold on to the win for like another half hour and we don't need to worry about it. And then the other team scores 1 or 2 and we end up losing. So as long as Graham Alexander keeps the boys pushing, keeps the boys motivated, so we can actually start playing a full, consistent 90 minutes instead of 45 minutes good and 45 minutes where you want to walk out that stadium and cry, that will be
I was speaking to Ben Banks, who works for Lanarkshire Live, and me and you both know Ben, obviously. And I was speaking to Ben previewing this weekend's game, and I was telling him that I honestly look at this by saying that as much as it's going to be a good game, there's also the other side to this to suggest that as much as it's going to be a good game, there's also the other side that this could be a complete mishit for Motherwell in a way if they don't get things right across the park.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, as I've been saying, Motherwell is a really unpredictable team. We could be going on a great run. I mean, we've seen it last season when obviously Hamlin Accies were still in the Premiership. We walk into those games expecting be an easy 2-0, even 3-0 at a push victory. And we get, I think one result we got better off them was like 3-1 or 4-1. And obviously, we look what happened to Hamlin. They got like 19 points overall last season, but 9 of them came from playing Motherwell. So we've kind of learned to not expect anything, but push for the best, if that kind of makes sense, which I know might sound a bit absurd at first, but when you watch Motherwell and out, like I do myself, you can probably see where I'm coming from with that one. But I do think they do heavily rely on Liam Kelly a little too much. I think that's kind of a controversial opinion, I'm not sure. But and as well as that, Stephen O'Donnell obviously done his international duty, can argue if he deserves it all day. But I think he's been played falsely at Motherwell. I think he's been played in the wrong positions, and that we have to properly rely on Bevis McGabby now, but in all the right ways. He's proven he can play consistently. He defends well. He's even been able to get a couple of goals for us this season as well. And obviously, as a right back or a centre back, that's usually kind of more difficult for yourself. But honestly, if Motherwell gets the right defenders in, we can do well. And I can see us doing quite well against Dundee, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Ricky Lamy is in the team of the week this week. Brilliant performance in Tarts.
Ricky Lamy has came on quite a lot since he first signed for Motherwell. I mean, I won't lie, I was quite worried by some of his performances. I mean, his first game he ever played for was a friendly during the off-season when things were just coming back from COVID and whatnot against Rangers, and he scored an own goal. So right away I was like, if one of our defenders in his first game is scoring OGs, that's kind of worrying. And for a long time after that, it was kind of lacking consistency. He was lacking urgency. Quite a lot of times as if he was scared to actually tackle and make interceptions. He's grown a lot more in confidence. He's actually able to make good defensive set plays. And I'm actually quite proud to say that I was wrong about him initially. Because at first I was like, this guy should be nowhere near that Motherwell team. Get him out when Robinson leaves. But I'm glad that I've been proven wrong, because he's actually turned around leaps and bounds from this point last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Kevin Graham, you brought me on brilliantly with the next question, because you read my mind perfectly, because that was exactly going to be my question. What's your view on Graham Alexander and the job he's done so far?
I can honestly, I'm one of the few ones actually back Alexander fully. I mean, he's not even had a full year at Motherwell, so I think the calls for him to leave, even there was people calling for his head in like March last year, which I thought was extremely premature. The guy had only been in the job for about 3 months and people were calling for him to get sacked. But the guy was brought in last season to keep us up. He did his job. We did an okay cup run. I mean, we got to, I think it was the quarters we got to against Tabs, and we just got put out in penalties. It happens. You don't want to dwell on that for too long. And as well as a club, obviously we'd love to bring a bit of silverware back. St Johnstone's double really inspired fans saying, no, we can do that, theoretically speaking. Like, why can't we? If they've done it, any team can outside the Glasgow side. So I'm hoping that Alexander could maybe surprise us. If we're able to get European football again, that would be brilliant. I know he was talking about that at one point, but I think realistically people need to think, right, what's the budget of Motherwell? What are the realistic goals at the start of any season for us, regardless of how the last season went? And how can we push those standards and goals further? And I think a lot of people don't give him the chance to actually do that. I mean, as I said, sometimes his tactics can be a bit questionable. I've called them into question before, same with some of his signings, like re-signing Stephen Lawless. And well, I don't know if you guys know what happened with that one, but he was obviously asked to leave the club. But overall, I think he's doing a good job with what he had, because when he first came in, he also had Stephen Robinson's draws, which he had to like mould and play with to try and make a squad out of. And now once, I hate saying the dead weight because it sounds horrible to the players, but you can quite tell that quite a lot of Robinson's players didn't want to be there at all anymore. Like, they wanted out the first chance they could get. And Alexander at the end of last year was like, you want out? There's a door, go. You served your time. Serve it somewhere else. And now we've actually been able to grow back as such a strong team. We're well connected with each other. We've got a proper leader now. I mean, I used to try to defend Declan Gallagher to the teeth about being our captain, but looking back on Kelly's captaincy versus Declan Gallagher's, you can see a drastic change in all the good ways that you would have expected a captain to act. But yeah, I think Alexander's got it right so far overall.
Yep, absolutely. By the way, Greg, you'll be delighted to know that this will be the the third time I've spoken about Hibs in this show tonight. So, go on, what's your prediction for tonight up at Dingwall for Ross County against Hibs?
Yeah, I've not seen the team news since we've obviously been on air, but again, a bit of a strange situation. Obviously, this will be the third attempt to play the game. I think obviously Ross County are fighting for their lives. Hibs have just made it through to a cup final. I think it is a notoriously difficult place for teams to go to Ross County. Yes.
The Hibs team, I'm pretty sure the producer will allow us to go for an extra few minutes, but the Hibs team is Macy, McGinn, McGregor, Hamlin, Boyle, Hayes, Ewell, Carden, Campbell, and Nisbet.
Yeah, strong team. Then he's obviously going for momentum, obviously from the weekend. So, I mean, Ross County had that obviously phenomenal win at Dens Park, obviously a few weeks ago as well. And obviously for the original fixture, they were keen for this game to go ahead. Again, I probably it feels like the team of tonight. I think it will be a draw. In all honesty, I think obviously Hibs should have enough to obviously kind of contain Ross County. I think Ross County will go for the win, but as I said, I can't see either side getting too sort of attacking minded for the game anyway.
Okay, prediction or.
I will go. Hopefully, it's 1-1, 2-2, but I think it's going to be a 0-0.
I have not gave any views or indeed the viewers my predictions yet. So we're going to go for. I'm going to go for Celtic to beat Leverkusen. I'm going to go for Rangers to draw with Prague, and I'm going to go with Hibs to win 2-0 tonight. But Jenna, prediction for Dingwall tonight.
I'm going to say 1-0 Habs. They're off the high of just getting the semi-final win. I say they're going to stroll this game easily. 1-0, 2-0.
Okay, absolutely. That's all we've got time for. Like I say, I don't know what time we're going to be on tomorrow night, but must say, what an outstanding debut from Greg and Jenna. So it's made my job 100 times easier. So thank you very much and much appreciated. Back tomorrow. Don't know what time yet, but we'll be back tomorrow and enjoy your Wednesday evening watching Champions League. Or indeed, from a state of Scottish football perspective, Ross County Hibs. So from us, thank you very much and see you again very, very soon.